and the way in which we have to live in this world, uh, circumspect to the world, to show that we are children of God. And we know that we really have to look out now in the times in which we live, who to find those who are truly Christians, that have the love of God in our hearts, that we can love our sisters and brothers the way that we should. There's so much hatred that is in the world, and so much confusion is going on because we have a world that said that we believe in God, but have the hatred of the people in our hearts. And I've been listening, I guess, probably to too much news lately. And it seems like every time you turn the television on, there's hate speeches, and people are doing harm to others without a cause, just because of who they are, their ethnicity, the color of their skin, the address, the zip code in which they live. And there's so many different types of prejudice in the world, and we're seeing it being exemplified on a large stage. So when I was thinking about that on this past week and last week, it kept coming back to me a passage, a message that is in the Bible. And we find this message in the middle of the Bible. There are 66 books in the Bible. And we find a message that deals with this problem in the dead center of the Bible. In Micah, the 33rd book, in Micah, the 33rd book of the Bible. There's 66 books in the Bible, and right in the middle of the Bible, halfway through, God addresses this problem that was going on through his prophet Micah. And when we look at the world today, we see the hatred is still there, not because of who the person are, but because of their ethnicity, the color of their skin, the address in which they live, the job that they may work, and many social things like that in the world. And the Lord had always taught throughout the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, that we should love one another, not because of who they are or what they have, but the Bible talks about an unconditional love. Love mankind just cause he is a man or a woman just like we are, trying to get through this life and then to be able to go home and be with God. I was looking at this, and I want to share my thought on this tonight. Come with me to the book of Micah. Micah. And in the world in which we live, we'll find a world of greed, selfishness, and plenty of hate. Hatred running rapidly, more so than giving love and kindness to anybody. It seems like people want to give out more hatred than love and kindness. In Micah 2, 1 through 13 in the Bible, have we really taken the time to notice that there's a beginning of life and there's an ending of life? And it's what we do in between the time of the beginning of life and ending of life is what's going to matter. Out of the 66 books in the Bible, and as I was studying and landed here in the 33rd book, in the middle of the Bible, the book of Micah, here it is that Michael begins to talk about this problem. Being and talking about the ending, beginning, he's talking about the beginning and the ending of this world. And it talks about right and wrong. It talks about good and bad. And it goes on down as I continue to read the book of Michael. It talks about a different type of people that is living in this world. It stresses and identifies that there are some folk who live for the pleasures and the riches of this world. And there's some folk who live to try to please the will of God. There's somebody online tonight or somewhere in the middle of your living. You don't know how long that you have in front of you, but you know how much time that you got behind you. And all of us online tonight, we don't know how long we got in front of us. We only can account for the time that we have had behind us. And that by itself ought to make us slow down and stop sometime and wonder about the time that I have put behind me. Have I done anything that is going to get me to heaven? Have I done anything in this world when I deal with mankind to show the love of God that when I die, I have secured myself to being a child of God? God is looking, he's watching how we carry ourselves, how we act, how we interact with one another. And then he watches us to see that will we allow the world to see or not see that we are children of God, that we have a relationship with him. Because see, there should be a difference between the Christians in the world and those who live a worldly life. There ought to be some identification somehow, some way to be able to tell when we meet a person without them telling us that they are Christian, but just how they carry themselves should speak volumes to the point whereas that they don't have to say, they don't have to have no Bible under their arm. They don't have to talk about the Bible and what chapter they read and what they done this, how good did they been to somebody else to make man believe that they are Christians. The Bible teaches us that our walk is going to speak for us. And as I was looking at this, there's somebody online tonight, somewhere in the middle of your living. We don't know how long we have in front of us, but we know how much time that we have had behind. In other words, we ought to be in hush now territory. That's what I was trying to get to. We ought to be in hush now territory, being careful of what we do and what we say. A lot of times that we, are quick to go off the deep end. We are quick to tell people how we feel. We are quick to tell people that they're getting on our nerves and that we don't like this person or we can't stand that person. Not because they've done anything to us, but because of their ethnicity, because of the color again of their skin, because the address in which they live. A lot of times we feel that we are better than others. But right in the middle of the Bible, and I'm going to keep saying this tonight till we go off the air. God called Michael for a reason. And he wanted Michael to point out some problems and some things that was going on in his world that he did not like and did not agree with. And it's still going on today. And the biggest thing is bigotry and hatred, racism. All those things factored in as to who we say that we are. God loves us all, but he hates the sin that we do. He hates our attitude sometimes when we think that we are better than others. And God said we all have sinned and come short of the goodness of God, to come short of the glory of God. We can't point a finger at anyone trying to tear them down because we ain't been perfect ourselves. All have sinned and come short of the glory of God. And we should not judge a man or a woman on what their address is, the color of their skin, their ethnicity, that there's no one race that is over the other. And in this world that we live today, and y'all know I'm telling the truth tonight, it depends on your race. It depends on where you come from. It depends on what you have. It's according to how the world looks at us, of either being somebody or being a nobody. And a lot of times you can have a different color skin from them, but you can't get in the crowd unless you got certain things in your life. You got to have a certain amount of money. You got to have a certain amount of people around you. You got to have a certain level of education. It seems like sometimes before folk even want to deal with you, that they feel that you shouldn't be in their circle because you don't have a PhD or a bachelor's degree or associate's degree. And we get stuck on it, those things in this world that ought not be. Well, and God, we think that we'll rise into a high level. But when God see how we're trying to get there by putting somebody else down, then guess what? We're not rising to a high level, but we're putting ourselves in such a state that we may have all the pleasures of this life while we're here on this earth. But there's going to come a day that God going to say, depart from me, for I know you not. I kept looking at that. And as I was looking at this, let me go back for a minute. Because when I was looking at this, I kept going back to the book of Micah. And I was reading the forward of Micah. And if you will, allow me to share something with you tonight. It said, Micah called from his rustic home to be a prophet. In other words, he didn't have no riches. He didn't have silver and gold, but he was a rustic man. In other words, he was a common man. And then it said to be a prophet leaves a familiar surroundings to deliver a stern message of judgment. God called a nobody to tell everybody about somebody. And he's still doing that today. He'll call a nobody to tell everybody about somebody. And that somebody is him. And it don't make no difference where you come from. God said, if you're on my side, and if you're walking with me, I'll make it where you can walk with kings and princes and governors and presidents throughout this world. I kept looking at that. And as I was reading the forward to the book of Micah, it said it like this. God called Micah to leave from where he lived, his familiar surroundings, to deliver a stern message of judgment to the princes and the people of Jerusalem, burdened by the abusive treatment of the poor, by the rich and influential people. The prophet turns his verbal rebukes upon any who would use their social and political power for personal gain. In other words, when God gave him the message, and he went out and teaching the people about God's word, this is the message that God told him to deal with. Let me go back and tell this to us again, or say it again. He called him to deliver a stern message of judgment to the princes, to the people of Jerusalem, burdened by abusive treatment of the poor, by the rich and influential people. The prophet turns his verbal rebukes upon any who would use their social and political power for personal gain. 1/3 of Micah's book exposed the sins of his countrymen. Another third of it exposed the picture, the punishment of God about the sin. And then the final picture that the book of Micah paints is about the final and third holds the hope of restoration when one of the disciplines has ended. When this disciplines have ended. In other words, God said, I'm going to send some storms. But those who are called by my name, he said, you're going to be able to make it through. And he's, I can send a storm in a place. It may be billions of people there. But I can put the storm on those whom I will and hold back the storms off of those whom I will. In other words, when God comes and sends his judgment, He letting us know if we standing in the right place, that we're going to be all right. If we got the right mindset, if we got the love in our heart that we're supposed to have for our sisters and brothers, no matter what color they are, what ethnicity they are, as long as we're treating them as human beings and people and the children of God, then God said we cannot fool him as to who we are. We can put a suit on, a Bible on our arm, but God knows the heart. And God is letting us know here as I was looking at this. Let's go to Micah chapter 2. And God is telling Micah to give this message to the people. It was a message of judgment on Samaria and also judgment on Judah. Let's go to chapter 2, if you will. God said to Micah, he said, Micah, I want you to deliver this message, and I want you to say it the way that I tell you to say it. He said, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. Now, can we put a pin here tonight? The first word in chapter 2 is woe. And woe means hold up, stand still. It says, hold your hand. And God tells Micah to tell the people to hold their hand. He goes on down, which said, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. In other words, when they go to sleep at night and lay down in the bed, they're thinking about what they can do wrong to somebody else, how they can cheat them out of a dime or a dollar, how they can keep them beneath them while they walk around as kings and queens. And they do it while they should be asleep at night. They're up thinking about how they can get over on the next person. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their bed. When the morning is light, they practice it. In other words, they thought about it all night long. And when they get up in the morning, they practice what they thought about. They practice how they can hold the next man down. They practice how they can keep the feet on somebody that they can't get up and be prosperous like they are. And God said, tell them, woe to them. I got to read it again, verse 1 in chapter 2 in the book of Micah. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice what they dreamed at night, because it is the power of their hand. And I underline in my Bible, because it is the power of their hand. Because they got power, they do it. They'll use it without being afraid of what God will do. And ain't that something where man can get so powerful here on this earth that he's not afraid of man? When I look around our country and around the world, and we got so many people that is impoverished, and the governments will not reach out and help those who need help, but they constantly give loans and everything else to big companies and organizations, and the poor man and the poor woman can't get a loaf of bread. I know it's a little tough tonight, but we're going to tell it just like it is. This book is in the middle of the Bible. 66 books in the Bible. And halfway in the Bible, God said, whoa, hold up. Let me send a message. And I'm going to send it by Micah to tell the folk that I'm displeased with how they living. And if we look at what it's saying here tonight, the world is living in the same way right now that God is saying that he's displeased with. I went down to verse 2, and it said, and they covered fields and take them by violence. In other words, when a righteous man has gone out and planted his field and getting ready to get his harvest in, then those who are wicked will come and take the man's field away from him. Take all the profit that he done worked hard for all year long. And when he gets almost there to where he need to be, somebody come along and cheat him out of it. It went down to verse 2, and they covered fields and take them by violence in houses. Now, can I put a pin here? You got a lot of people that have worked hard all their life, got mortgages on their home. And so many people right now don't have the jobs, the interests have gone up, and they cannot afford the home that they bought 20 years ago. And they trying to find a way to stay in it. And because of the interest rate is so high, then their credit may have not be what it need to be right now. They can't even get a loan to save what they've been working for 20 years. Verse 2, and they covered fields and take them in violence, in houses, and take them where? They take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage. Oppression. Keeping their foot on the neck of people who most of the time is the working class, trying to make a living and have something in life. And here comes the man that has everything and try to take it away. Verse 3, therefore, thus said the Lord, behold, against this family, I do devise an evil. Now, can I put a pin here tonight? I got stuck on this family. What family God is talking about here? What families God is telling Michael to tell that God didn't have enough? It says in verse 3, therefore, thus said the Lord, behold, against this family do I devise an evil from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go haughty, for this time is evil. God, someone bring back some evil time. And he said, everything that the rich and the haughty and the uppity is trying to do to the what they call the low class and the impoverished people, God said, I'm going to turn it around. He said, I'm watching. So what I'm saying tonight, don't be so all upset when these things start to happen to us. God already has said and prophesied by Michael to tell us that these things going to come. But he also tells Michael to tell the people to hold on. He tells Michael to encourage them to know that he's still God, no matter what is going on in their lives. In verse 3, therefore, thus said the Lord, behold, against this family do I devise an evil. These people I will devise an evil, from neither shall ye go haughty. I got to go back. I devise an evil from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall you go haughty, for this time is evil. Haughty means uppity. And God is letting us know that he's going to deal with those that think that they are above him and above his power. God has charged every man to show a quality of love one to another. He said, love ye one another as I have loved you. And gave his son for the saving of our soul. And I went down to verse 4, look what it says, chapter 2 in the book of Micah. In that day shall one take up a parable against you, and lament with a doleful lamentation, and say, we be utterly spoiled. He had changed the portion of my people. How had he removed it from me? Turning away, he had divided our field. Oh, Lord. And now he's letting them know that they should take up a parable against you. In that day shall one take up a parable against you, and lay them with a doleful lamentation, and say, we be utterly spoiled. He had changed the portion of my people. How had he removed it from me? Turning away, he had divided our field. But look at verse 5. Therefore, thou shalt have none that shall cast a cord by the lot in the congregation of the Lord. In other words, God is saying, be careful when you're taken away from my people. Be careful when you casting lots against them, that they cannot be able to hold their head up because of your greed. I went down to verse 6, if it said, if you will. It said, prophesy ye not, say that they to them that prophecy, they shall not prophesy to them, that they shall not take shame. God said they better watch what they're doing and let them know that they ought to be shamed of how they treat his people. Ought to be shamed how they look down on somebody that they don't have what they have, or live what they live, or drive what they drive. He said, don't be haughty when you've been blessed. Don't be haughty when you got more than others. And then we'll begin to look down on some folk and turn our nose up because they not where we are. God said, when you see that, and I have blessed you with much, he said, I'm requiring you to take the much that I have given you and to share it with somebody else. And he said, if you don't do that, then there's a penalty that will be paid. Can I just bring it to reality today and talk about in 2025 where we're standing right now? And many people are fighting right now. We just got through voting. I'm just going to go ahead and make it plain tonight. Voting for the president of the United States. And there's so much hatred in the world, so much bitterness in this country, so much divisiveness in this country because of skin color, because of zip code, and because of the address and the homes or the house or the mansion that I live in. And then even with different ethnicities, just because a man comes from another country and his color of skin is not the same color of my skin. His children's hair is not the same fineness as my hair. And at the same time, they are put down and cast aside because they didn't come from the same place. But we don't understand that God made us from the same, we was all made from the same God. And God said that it don't make no difference what color the skin is. Everybody's blood is red. If you cut me, we're going to all bleed the same way. And there's so much hatred in this world when you will go to a drastic measure. When a person is trying to make better for themselves and their families. And then somebody else is trying to pull me back and cash me out just because I wanted a piece of the pie like everybody else. And I wasn't begging for the pie. I was willing to work for the pie. And many times people work more for the pie than those who have been given a silver spoon, born into riches, born into money, generational blessings, generational fortune. And then here's something else. Another man said, I want to aspire to have the same thing, but I'm willing to work for it. We had to be careful how we look at society and other people. God loves us all. We all have come from Adam and Eve and migrated to different parts of the world. Language has changed. Skin tones have changed. Accent has changed. But we come from the same God. We come from the same folk that God started the world with. But man will look at it and try to hurt somebody else because of the color of their skin or their ethnicity. I went down to verse 6 and 7, if you will. He said, prophesy ye not, say they to them that prophesy. They should not prophesy to them that they shall not take shame. God said, better take shame when this started to happen. We ought to be ashamed of ourselves when we look at another man or a woman or ethnicity and think of them as being less. Oh boy, I know I'm gonna get in trouble tonight. Let me go on down a little bit further, get in trouble some more. Verse 7. O thou that art named the house of Jacob, is the spirit of the Lord straightened? Are these his doings? Do not my words do good to him that walketh upright? Look what God has said. He said, wait a minute now. Verse 7, O thou that art named the house of Jacob. He said, even the church folk, oh Lord, is doing the same thing. Sometimes we can have just a little bit more than the next man. Ain't got much, but just a little bit more than somebody else. And then we got the nerve to look down on somebody else because we got more than them. Oh Lord, I ain't fussing tonight. I'm not. I'm just want to tell the truth that we can look and see what is happening. And God is not pleased with what he sees. And that's why he told Micah in the middle of the Bible, in the 33rd book, 66 books in all, to send a message to the people and let them know that something is wrong. And when I picked the Bible up and started beginning to reading this story a couple weeks ago, and as I was looking at this and I was thinking about what was going on in the world right now, I said, oh my God, Lord, this message had already been prophesied several years ago as to how God feels about the thoughts of man. I went down to verse 7 again. O thou that art named the house of Jacob. He said, you carry my name. The house of Jacob. Is the spirit of the Lord straightened? There's a question mark right there. Are these his doings? He said, ask yourself the question, would God think like I'm thinking? Will God do somebody else the way that I'm doing somebody else? He said, think about these things now. Is the spirit of the Lord straightened? Are these his doings? Do not my word do good to him that walketh upright? Does not my words do good to them that walketh upright? God said, if you try to do the right thing, the people ought to be blessed for what they're trying to do right, not for what they're trying to do wrong. He said, if you got the love of God in your heart, and you got a do-right spirit, then he said it ought to show to the point as to somebody got to take a stand. I was looking, and I got to say this, at the inaugural, I guess it was on yesterday or the day before, and all of the festivities and what have you that is going on. Same thing that is going on in the world, around the nation. We look at this, and somehow the world has got off track as to, and especially when you talk about the riches of this world, or the material thing, that the sensibility of man, the love and compassion of man, have seemed like it's fading away. It's fading. He said, love you one another as I have loved you, and gave myself for you, for the sins of this world. That right there says a lot to me. That God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believe in him will not perish, but have everlasting life. That's love. And then in the New Testament, the Bible said that he sent his son to save the world. He gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believe in him should not perish, but shall have everlasting life. He didn't say the rich. He didn't say those who was wealthy. He said, whomsoever believe in him. And when it said believe in him, whosoever take on the character of God, whomsoever take on the love of God. He said, those are the ones that I'm going to call out of this world to eternity. And so men can fight among themselves. Nations can fight against nations. There's war right now going on all around the world. And 9 times out of 10, it's not about spirituality. It's about greed. One nation want to take over another nation. One country want to take over another country. And when you think about it, when it comes down to the last thing, the last dollar, it's about greed. I went down to, but let me know when we got started. Oh, we're back. We already there. Okay. Hey, man, that time show ran running quick tonight. Thanks, Brother Boyd and Brother Ab. That time has ran quick. I got excited about this tonight. I wanted to get further and talk about this some more because this book is a very small book, but it tells us what we are today and the mindset of humankind. It tells us the hatred and the meanness of man just because of the color of a person's skin and ethnicity. Again, I said it earlier, the address in which they live, the family in which they came from. And people will have the nerve to look down on somebody because they don't even live on the same street or neighborhood that they live in. These things ought not to be so. We'll see what the Lord has to say on next week. We may dive a little bit further into this book and pick up some more books that go along with it to get us to the New Testament. But I'm just compassionate about this message because of so many people being hurt right now. And it seems like the love of God is gone. It is about greed and hatred, more so than brotherly love. Not what I can do for a person, but seems like now is what I can do against a person. For no reason at all other than for me to have my greed and for me to keep my feet on their necks. These things ought not be. I'm going to turn, if you will, I know our time is out, but I'm going to ask you to give me another 5 minutes tonight. We're going to turn the mics on, and anybody have anything that they want to say on this topic, and we would love for you to chime in. So if you're on, you can go ahead and turn your mics on. If you'd like to chime in and have a quick thought on what we've been talking about and discussing.
Good evening, Pastor. This is Mother Banks.
Hello, Mother Banks.
And I have a little book that summarized some of the minor prophets that are in the book, and Micah is one of them, of course.
Yes, Lord.
And may I take a minute to read this? It says, yes. Micah is a name that means who is like the Lord. Yes, Micah was